the chorus grasses. Quite a good quality grass in terms of eating. Right, so I've collected a whole load of them, and there's two last ones I want to point out, and these are grasses that grow in relatively poor quality areas. In other words, where they're poor quality grasses, they're very tough and very hardy, but they're not particularly nutritious for the different animals, which is why some of them might be growing outside the tent, because there's been a lot of activity around this area. So we've got our 3 awn grasses, and I promise you, those of you if you happen to come out here with fleeces or something like that, if you found yourself on the ground, I'm not quite sure why you would find yourself on the ground, but if you were to find yourself rolling in the ground in one of these, you would be picking bits of grass out of them for days. Or if you perhaps came with big, thick, fluffy socks and you went on a walk through a grassland with some of this in it, again, it embeds itself perfectly in somebody's shoes, and it's got tiny little spikes, or socks, sorry. It's got tiny little spikes on the end there. Very fine, very difficult to see. I'll try and keep it still. That is tassel 3 awn grass, and it's quite a poor quality grass. Also works well, combination there of sticking into animals' fur and wind dispersal. And then one of the prettiest grass species. It's completely useless for the animals to eat. It's not very nice at all, but it is called a cat's tail. My grasses are a bit rusty. Stay still. I think it's called a cat's tail grass, or cat's tail grass. And that is really very pretty, which means that it's often used in grass arrangements, similar to flower arrangements, but perhaps to add a little bit of different greens in a flower arrangement. But really not much else, because it's not very good grazing at all, but it is beautiful. See, it's purple. Like a bottle brush. Oh, my word, this weather's coming in. So isn't this, oh dear, this grass is blowing everywhere. I was going to put this one under the microscope, but it wants to blow away. Yeah, okay. Now, while I fiddle with the microscope, there we go. Ooh. I did it all wrong. I pushed it out of focus. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, we should have done a quiz on this, shouldn't we? Should have said, what is that? Because my goodness gracious, I mean, it does look like a plant, but I don't think you'd ever guess it was a grass, would you? I suppose now that you know, it's hard to say. I don't know that I would have got that, but it is really, really pretty. Should I fiddle with the focus, or am I too inexpert? No. Quite fun. Can't be heavy-handed about this process. Sorry to anyone who's very easily motion sick. I don't really have much more to say about that. You get the idea. Seed dispersal is pretty easy, but I did want to show you that just because it's really beautiful. I think it's really beautiful. I was, as I said, hoping to find a little tiny tick called a pepper tick on the grasses, right? So you want to know, are pepper ticks the baby ticks, or are they just small ticks? They are, in fact. There's some disagreement here. To the best of my knowledge, in fact, I know this is the case. I have triple checked it. Pepper ticks are tick larvae. They are baby ticks. They're not just small ticks. They are baby ticks. They are capable of transmitting tick bite fever, which is the rickettsia bacteria that gives people a really horrible fever. Excuse me. It's well timed.
Like limes.
Like limes.
Lime's disease.
Like Lyme disease. Yes, but not nearly as serious as our Lyme disease, but as your Lyme disease. Excuse me. However, they are tick larvae, and of course lots of ticks, different species of ticks have different life cycles. So you'll get the new hatchlings that will only have one molt before they become adults. You'll get species of ticks, big ticks, bond ticks and so on, that will have 2 molting life cycles before they become the adults. And they'll utilize different animals. So a pepper tick, like something like a scrub hare or a bird or me. And it's so funny, Brent and I can walk through exactly the same patch of grass. The same thing happens with Steph as well. Exactly through the same patch of grass, Brent will walk away scot-free, and Steph and I will be scratching our way through the rest of the next 3 weeks. Now, I'll have a look and see whether or not I can find any ticks hanging about on grass blades. I'm sure there must be some. I can't believe I haven't found any already. Perhaps I have, I'm just not aware of them. But pepper ticks are very, very, very tiny. They are probably no bigger than the tiniest of freckles. Now back to our grasses. Andy, you wanted to know, how do different animals know the difference or understand the difference between nutritional value of different grasses? They don't, really. I think it's instinct, and I think it is particularly a sense of smell that the plant or the grasses give off that is more attractive. I know that certain animals really like certain grass species. For example, white rhino absolutely love a type of grass called Themida triandra, which is red grass. It's beautiful grass. And I haven't seen very many or lots of the red grass in this particular area, so I don't know. I assume it's a sense of smell and then also learning. Sorry, I heard the dwarf mongoose again. I'm determined to get these dwarf mongoose so used to us that when we do 10 segments, they come up and watch us while we do it. That's my next goal. I don't know when that's going to happen or how, but that's my plan. Imagine we're sitting here with a little dwarf mongoose audience all sitting outside watching us, intrigued as to how they're meant to know the difference between the grass species. Excuse me. So they would, I mean, it's not as though an elephant walks out and goes, what would I like to eat today? And grasses are also classified in terms of their leaf yield. So, for example, I'm looking for, where on earth did I pick up that tassel 3 orn again? I can't even remember now. I don't remember. It was somewhere around here. So, for example, that tassel 3 orn versus something like this panicum grass. You can see these leaves are nice and large. Sorry, animal, that I just stole a mouthful from. So it's leaf yield as well. It's the size of the leaves. So it's not as though they go out and go, actually, I don't really like that one. I've eaten that before. It didn't make me feel too good, or it didn't give me that burst of energy. It sort of give me the number of calories I was looking for. It's not GI friendly or whatever it's called. What's that slow release stuff? I'm not thinking of GM. I'm thinking of the... That's it. It is GI. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So that's sort of how they will go about it. And different things will be better digested by different animals. So in the same way that you have grazers or browsers, for example, certain digestive systems work well for certain plant types and certain grass types, which is great because it spreads out. That's not to say that if an animal were starving, it wouldn't eat a tassel 3 orn grass. It absolutely would. Right, I'm not going to keep you away from those lions for too long. I think let's go back over to Efia, find out if they've moved at all.
So, these lions are still fast asleep. I think this is going to be our last session with these lions, and then we're going to carry on. Let's see if we can find some other game as well. But yeah, no, I don't think they're going to get going anytime soon. I think that was all a lot of hope and no proof in that hope at this stage. So yeah, we'll let them do their thing, let them be. They're all still very, very lazy. Hopefully they get lucky though tonight and maybe find some food for them. Sorry, I just heard of... Yeah, maybe they'll bump into another herd of buffalo and get to eventually get their meal that they tried for so desperately yesterday. Well, I don't know how desperate they were yesterday, but their foiled efforts. So, Sarah, you'd like to know if when lions split up in their pride and then eventually get back together, if it's difficult to get together again. I think because they're related, the females will have some form of a bond, and through a bit of a greeting ritual and just reaffirming those bonds, everything should be fine. An unrelated female wouldn't be allowed back, I don't think. Well, into the pride first of all, and yeah, they'd push her off. I think it might go, at first there might be a couple of snarls at one another and a bit of fighting, but they'll accept each other and then get going again as a normal pride. There'll be a lot of touching and caressing each other for the first bit, just getting those bonds back to a good strength, and then I think they're 100% fine. Wonder what else we'll be able to bump into this afternoon. Just look at those paws, look how massive those paws are. I think the wind's quite strong, so it's playing with a bit of noise on our mics. Apologies for that. I'll try and sort that out. Folks, I think it's time for us to leave these lions in peace. Let them enjoy the rest of their afternoon snooze, and hopefully they'll get up to some mischief tonight, maybe find some food. While we make our way out of the bush back onto the road, let's go see what Taylor's got on Cheetah Plains.
I need to very quickly chat on the Game Drive radio. Standing by, Ryan. I'm just approaching Central. Okay, copy. Thank you. Just confirm as I still come down 3 in a row pan. Copy, thank you very much. Radio, there we go. Just very quickly chatting to Ryan from Arathusa, as he is with the leopards at the moment, and sometimes we don't get the greatest signal out here, so luckily we managed to find a spot. But we've got a little bit of a way to go as we get towards Inkanyeni and quarantine, and it sounds like they are have moved off slightly from where they were into some more denser vegetation. So we need to try and get there as quick as possible before we completely lose them. Now, that's very typical with leopards as they mate, is that sometimes they stay in the same spot, but what they've done now is they've spent the whole night really underneath a very romantic marula tree, and now they're on the go. So we need to just make sure we get there in time, but we're not too far away, probably a couple of minutes or so. Maybe we get lucky and we find something else that's really interesting along the way. Otherwise, we're probably going to just keep a direct route and start heading there. Now, we're very fortunate to see so many different cats up here, from of course the lions, which are around most of the time, as well as leopards and occasionally the cheetah brothers. But some of the smaller cats, like the serval and the African wild cats, are a little bit more elusive and more difficult to find. And Kaylee, you were actually wondering if we see caracal or African lynx, maybe some of you may know it, in this area. Unfortunately, they're not very common around here. There's been a couple of people who have said that they've seen them before, but where I'm from in South Africa, so the Eastern Cape, which is sort of the state of the province, if you will, they are everywhere. It's so beautiful. The amount of times that I was able to see caracals with kittens was quite spectacular. I don't know if you saw those birds as they flew across the screen, but there they are. These are white-crested helmet shrikes, and you better take a very quick look at them because they normally don't hang around for too long. Look at them all cleaning their beaks, doing a bit of grooming. Oh no, I can hear the thunder rumbling in the far distance now. And I think they're having one last groom. Maybe they got a little bit wet from the downpour that we had a couple of minutes ago. Not a minute, maybe about 20 minutes ago now. So they're just cleaning themselves up before they have to go to bed. But you can see they're very gregarious. They live in big groups. And it's always funny. They always look like they're mimicking each other. Bit windy for them up there too, holding on for dear life. And once one flies, off they go into the next tree. Wonderful. Right. Let's not get too distracted. Let's keep heading towards those leopards. Right, let's just double check where we are on the GPS. You'll see me using my mobile. Technology is just so wonderful. Okay, we've still got a little bit of a way to go. We're almost there. We get to the next road and then we turn left. And then we'll be at those pans quite shortly. So I'm just going to pick up the pace a little bit here. But you can see that it has got very, very windy now. So hopefully these leopards, like I said, hopefully they don't go too far into the thicket to get out of the wind, because that won't be wonderful for us, as it can be quite difficult to maneuver through some of this thick vegetation. Now, I know over the last few days everybody has been exceptionally excited, and in particular Susie is super excited to see Quarantine mating, because this is probably the first time that he has actually mated. The last time we saw Quarantine in Inkanyeni, well, the last and the first sighting I had of the two of them, he was not interested in Inkanyeni one little bit. He was very confused by her behavior, but it seems as though he is finally caught on now, and I think he's very, very lucky to be mating at his age, because there are a couple of other bigger leopards in the area that, well, they probably should be ahead of him and have first preference, but he snuck in, and well, good for him. Let's hope I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be making it up, I think Shavambalana, he is Quarantine's older brother. What we're going to do now is, we're almost there, but I suspect we're going to have to do a little bit of bundu bashing. So we're going to go back across to Jamie and see what she's looking at under the microscope. And maybe she's got a couple of other things to show you too.
Because Taylor's not here to fossick for me. She's the chief fossicker, and she's very, very good at finding things, but I think we've done to death the beetles and the moths and so on, so I'm not looking at anything else underneath the microscope. I'm actually waiting with bated breath for Taylor to get to see Inkanyeni, because that is a leopard that I have never ever seen, and I'm thrilled to hear that she's mating with Quarantine, because that presumably will mean the end of their whatever was going on, the chasing backwards and forwards that was happening and that was occurring. And perhaps they'll reconcile towards each other in each other's territory, if indeed that's what Quarantine has established, because of course there's been much talk about the fact that Quarantine is right up there with Shumbambalana. So if we go across, and it depends on how long, but hopefully we can do some drawing. Well, oh no, I was going to do some drawing, but look what's happened. In a tragic turn of affairs, the drawing board's blown off. Let's pop it down there. So there we go. There's James's amazing artwork from yesterday. Guess which one's me? I can't tell. I'm wearing a skirt, aren't I? So Brent's got long hair as well, but I presumably am the one wearing a skirt, because, you know, I often wear skirts and in fact, just in general. I'm a very regular skirt wearer, as you can imagine. Very practical wearing. Very practical wearing for... Tell James, for these safaris. Now, James, no offense meant, but let's hide in coral and cheetah plains. So Taylor's currently racing along to where Quarantine and Inkanyeni are at the moment. Now, the interesting thing is, because Inkanyeni's territory seems to, let's put her in orange. She strikes me as an orange kind of a girl. Let's put her in orange. So Inkanyeni's territory, a lot of it is based around in coral, and it probably does sort of this. I don't know exactly, none of us know exactly how far it extends into the Kruger National Park, because we can't drive there. Now, so that is Inkanyeni's territory. Let's mark him in red, for I feel he is a red kind of a boy. Oh no, I've done the territories red, I can't do that. Let's mark him in blue then, because blue is for boys, as everybody knows. we've got Shimbambalana. Now, Shimbambalana is Quarantine's older brother, and he's older by 2 years. It is pretty typical of the distance between leopard cubs. And his territory probably does quite a lot of this. We don't know how far into Mala Mala it extends. I don't think very far. It definitely extends right down there into CP, because we've seen him all the way down there, and we don't know how much of it is in the Kruger. Now, of course, a male leopard's territory is much, much larger than that of a female. Now, though, the plot has thickened because Quarantine, Shimbambalana's younger brother, and the leopard that you're about to see with Taylor, mating, not just mating with a female, right in the heart of Shimbambalana's territory is Quarantine, the male leopard. And he gets seen, he dots around because he's a dispersal male. So it's very difficult for us to say, okay, he's claiming a territory, because it's still being established and this has got to work itself out and it won't happen overnight. But he's mating, he's marking, he's scent marking, and he's calling in these sorts of areas. So it looks as though perhaps Quarantine is looking at stay there, you horrible wind. Quarantine looks as though he's sort of establishing himself somewhere around here. And then, of course, all of this, or a lot of this, is Tingana's territory. This is getting very complicated. It's basically like playing, what's that game? Twister. Right, so there we go. It's sort of an interesting combination of Q, the male you're about to see, Inkanyeni, the orange girl, and of course her young male Vitomi, wherever he may be. I have never seen him either. And then I've forgotten, Shimbambalana. Shimbambalana, meaning the emerald-spotted wood dove, a truly fitting name for a leopard of his stature. I love it. I think it's a beautiful name, but it is quite incongruous with this massive male leopard. So I've never seen Shimbambalana. I haven't seen Inkanyeni. The only leopard in all of this mix, in all of this drama I have seen, is Quarantine. And I'm very, very interested to see what is happening with Quarantine at the moment and whether or not he has, in fact, established himself a territory. I don't have any more colors, so I can't tell you anything else. Michael, you want to know, just hold this, shall I? You wanted to know, I'm not going to draw any pictures. I'm not nearly as good as James at drawing pictures. Perhaps I should draw Taylor while we wait. You wanted to know what, I'll just draw her up here, whether or not I think that Quarantine and, let's give her a big smile because she's so funny. She's so lovely. Got such a sense of humor. Let's draw Taylor. And she doesn't wear a skirt, so she can just be a stick figure like normal. That's Taylor, and that's her leopards. Michael, you wanted to know if I think that... Oh, I don't know what that was. Quarantine and... That's Taylor's eyelashes. Lovely long eyelashes, because she does have such beautiful eyes. There you go. Lovely long eyelashes. This hasn't come out clearly, and that leopard's just a disaster. Let's concentrate on what I was saying. You want to know, Michael, if I think Shimbambalana and Quarantine know they're brothers? We don't know the answer to that question. If you ask my personal opinion, yes, I think they do. I think that Shimbambalana would have encountered Quarantine with his mom when Quarantine was very young, Quarantine and his brother Kunuma. So yes, I think that they do know that they're brothers. I think they do. I don't know if leopards have a concept of brothers, but do they recognize that this is an individual familiar to them? Yes. Do they recognize that it's an individual connected to their mother? Yes. So I don't know exactly, but I suspect that yes, I think that leopards do know each other. As for the explanation behind Quarantine and the encounter with Vitomi, I don't know the answer to that. Does he know? Because Vitomi, of course, is suspected to be Shimbambalana's cub. Does he know that? Does the leopard, is there some sort of familiarity of scent, perhaps, a scent that unifies certain genetically related leopards? Probably not, but I don't know. It's a very, very good question, and we probably won't begin to understand those sorts of interconnectedness between those different leopard families. Now, James, you talking about the interesting behavior we're seeing from Mr. Q. And he is very young, and James is wondering, well, let's move away from this noisy board, shall we? It's all blowing away anyway. You want to know whether or not his behavior could be perhaps influenced by size or personality, because Q is a very, very big leopard. And sorry, I changed my mind there. I was going to go sit down, but I just did a little spin around the chair. I mean, this is a relatively small leopard. I don't know whether it's a male or a female, but I suspect female, just in terms of size of skull. Maybe a youngish male. But a male leopard is basically double the size of a female. Now, Q is at that point. He's huge. He really is a very, very big leopard. He hasn't quite fully developed that dewlap that male leopards do, but he's well on his way. So is it personality? Does he have a more dominant personality than Shimambalana does? Maybe. Is it because Shimambalana's actually decided that he's got prime territory somewhere in the Kruger and he can't be bothered trying to defend that part of his territory? It's really, really hard. It's just pure speculation from us. I really, honestly, am not 100% sure. I do, however, think that personality does play a role. Now, speaking of those extraordinary leopards, I think it's time to send you over to Taylor and Cheetah Plains to have a look at them.
So we've managed to eventually get into the sighting with Quarantine and Inkanyeni, but there's quite a few other vehicles in this sighting, but I think we're going to have the upper hand when it comes to maneuvering, because we've got such a small vehicle, much shorter wheelbase, and we're able to sneak in and out of the trees. And luckily we don't have any guests to worry about, as we don't want to bump anybody's heads. It's just Brian, but Brian's very good at ducking. So we're going to try and keep up with them, but we also want to give them a bit of space. They are mating, and we're not going to pressure them. So we'll hang back a little bit and let all the other vehicles have a view, and then hopefully once the sighting quietens down a little bit, then we'll able to get a little bit closer and watch quite nicely. But I don't want to drive over all these trees and sort of chase them around too much, even though they're probably quite relaxed and they wouldn't mind us driving up behind them. We'll just make sure we give them a bit of room, because of course this is a very sensitive matter, and it's the first time Quarantine is mating. Rightio. You alright here, Brian? Watch this branch. There's lots and lots of bush willows, which is okay. So, luckily they're not big, massive trees that we really need to worry about too much. Now, what's quite nice is you can just see them moving off into the distance. Like I said, we'll give them a bit of room. We're not in any hurry. As they're moving through here, they might even chase up a couple of steenbok or common duiker, and I've seen it before where a mating pair have actually hunted together and then feasted upon and shared the same kill. Imagine we get to see something along those lines, because even though they seem to be preoccupied with mating, they're also going to get a little bit hungry too. Right, let's see if we can find a gap through here. Which way are we going to go? Let's go through here. Also got to look out for all the termite mounds and also some of the burrows. We don't want to fall through one of those. And what we will do now, it's opening up a bit, so we might try and get in front of them, sort of anticipate their behavior, and then sit and wait, and I'm sure that they will come directly towards us. So we'll just go up ahead here. And they're just going to pop out, hopefully in this open gap. Right, here we go. You can see there's other vehicles. Michael, I have to agree with you. The first time I saw Quarantine, I thought that was Inkanyeni from a distance, and Inkanyeni was her cub, and that's exactly what Michael said, is that Quarantine has got so big now, he sort of dwarfs the size of Inkanyeni, and he's grown. He's definitely grown since the last time that I saw him, but he's still not quite as big. He might be catching up to about Mvula's size. Maybe he's getting to about that size, but he's still got a bit of a way to go. But that's Inkanyeni that you can see now disappearing. And I'm going to go forward because there's an old reservoir here. Obviously, I don't know why this reservoir was put here. What they did do many years ago is they created all these man-made watering holes, but they're now both sitting up on the reservoir wall. Watch your head here, Brian. I'm going to try and sneak through this very, very slowly. Are you alright there? just have to stop here. Sorry. Okay. We go forward a little bit more. We'll have to go back a bit. We tied in here. Oh. Now they've gone inside the reservoir. Quarantine jumped straight in. But there's Inkanyeni still sitting on the wall. And down she goes. And you don't have to be too worried about them because leopards can jump and climb exceptionally well. They're mating and they're actually mating inside there now. Now I'm sure you all heard all of that growling. That was the two of them. And I don't think that they will hang around there for too long. Actually, I'm not sure because that would be a very good spot to sit. It must be empty. Maybe a small amount of water in there from the rain. But it would actually be very, very much sheltered from the wind. And I suppose there's not too many creatures that could actually utilize a structure like this. There he comes. He's back out again. Sitting on the wall. Both of them have hopped back out. And now he's just going to lay there. And walls are one of the most favorite things for leopards to sit on. Whenever they come around the lodges, and they often come around the lodges, they'll sit up on, I've even seen leopards before sitting on the couches that they often have outside, either on the decks for all of the guests. They're not shy of a sort of human, all the equipment that we have, from like a reservoir like this, to, of course, even a couch or a bed sitting next to the pool. They're quite comfortable with doing that. This is so cool. But he is definitely growing. He's looking like a very, very nice leopard. He's filled out quite a bit. I'm really impressed with his size for his age, because remember, he's only about 4 years old. So he's still got quite a bit of growing to do. I reckon when he gets to about 6, he'll almost be full grown. He'll sort of reach the maximum size. But he's still got a bit of growing to do. He should start to develop a dewlap. But look at those eyes. Now he's got very, very dark eyes. Well, the skin around his eyes is beautiful. He's a lovely cat. Just the perfect time for a nap. So I believe a lot of you are saying that this is the honeymoon suite. You're quite right. It's very nice, with equipped with private pool, and well, maybe it's an infinity pool. I don't know. The way that he's sitting on it, he makes it look like that. You can also hear the red-crested coron that was calling in the background. There's a lot going on here this afternoon. Maybe this is the honeymoon corner, because it sounds like that red-crested coron was possibly doing his display. Hello, boy. There we go. Look at his eyes. I love about leopards, that their eyes are always different colors. Some beautiful hazel brown, some a bit more yellow, and then you get his eyes, which almost look like they have a tinge of like sort of a bluish green to them. Very, very light eyes. He's keeping a close eye on us as we speak. Don't worry, you can have Inkanyeni all to yourself. Now, speaking about Mvula, as I compared Mvula to Quarantine, Vulpine Wolfgirl, you're actually wondering if Mvula is still around. He is indeed. These days he seems to hang around Buffel's Hook, and I believe the other day, over the last couple of days, him and one of the Birmingham males were actually sharing, and when I say sharing, they were taking turns on feeding on a buffalo carcass. When I don't know who it was, I think it could have been Tinyo of the Birmingham boys that was up there. He would eat, and then he'd get too full and he'd go and sleep it off. And then Quarantine would move on in. Not Quarantine, sorry, Mvula would come down his tree and actually have a little munch on the buffalo carcass and then head back. He almost got caught though. I watched a video where Mvula was happily munching away on the buffalo, and the next minute Tinyo had actually spotted him and started stalking him and got a couple of feet away, and then you could just see every now and then Mvula would lift his head up and look around, and he just knew that something wasn't right. And then that's when he spotted Tinyo, and he had to race up a big tree to get away from him. And I think that continued for a couple of days. How beautiful are his markings though, especially there. His coat looks so light, and there's that lovely contrast with the rosettes, that sort of rustish red in the middle, and then of course the dark black spots. He's got a lovely coloration to him. He's one of the prettier male leopards I've seen. They're always so handsome when they're young, for instance like Hosan age, and then as they start to get a little bit older they don't look as impressive, but he looks very, very handsome. And just a little scar on his nose, or a couple of little old scars on his nose. But they won't stay there forever, those will disappear. Oh, he's keeping a close eye. It's okay, big boy, watching us. And it just shows you that these animals, they don't mind, and especially leopards, more so than lions. Abed, you said that these are all very lovely leopards. They are indeed. It's one thing that I love about the leopards, is that the lions become habituated to the vehicles much easier and a lot sooner. But you don't always see the lions coming around lodges and that type of thing. You typically, like I said, you see the leopards are always in the lodge. And I'm pretty sure at every single lodge in the Sabi Sands there will be one leopard that has decided to make the sort of lodge area their home. And when I was working down in the south, we had exactly that. We had a leopard by the name of Lisbon, who is to date my favorite leopard of all time, and she loved the lodge. She was always around catching all the little bushbuck, and I've told the story about how she chased a bushbuck onto the roof one day and tried to catch it. But unfortunately she passed on. She was an older girl. And then a young leopard by the name of Florolini came in, and she decided she'd just take over her territory, and she also quite liked the lodge. And Florolini was a young girl, only about 3.5 years old, maybe even a little bit younger than that. And she got very brave. The one day, and you must actually ask Evia about this story, because he'll probably tell it better. But Evia's girlfriend actually shouted, "Leopard, leopard," one day in the lodge, and it was a leopard right down sorry, I don't know what happened to me there. I tried to say 6 million things at once. Let's try that again. Basically had this sort of corridor coming down, and she was standing right at the entrance as if she was checking into the lodge. So Evia came running out, but you'll have to ask him to tell that story. But we used to see her at the spa. She was always around the guest rooms. The one day I think she even killed an impala or something, and she dragged it and hid it in one of the guest outdoor showers. I mean, it was bustling with leopards at that lodge. But it seems for now that just the honeymoon couple is just taking a break, just relaxing. And seeing as though we've seen these beautiful cats in real life, let's go back across to Jamie and see if she can draw them as well as they look.
Sorry, my easel just fell upon me. Would you please stay still? This is maybe, I know I should have learned from the first time. We tried to tape it down, but I didn't expect the entire thing to fall on top of me. That was relatively unexpected. I'm very jealous of Taylor, by the way. I've been dying to see a leopard in that reservoir, and the number of times I walked up to that reservoir and gone very, very cautiously peeked over the top, because the last thing you actually really want to do is find a leopard in there. But I've always just been curious and poked my nose over, and the number of times I've done that, more than I can count, and then I've been on CP. Right, so what we're doing, what I'm trying to do, and maybe I should ask for your help as well, in trying to figure out how to, this is for newer viewers, but I could use those of you that have been watching for many, many years to help me with a size comparison here. So I've done the males, kind of, that we see regularly. Stay there. Sit. Done the males that we regularly see. So we're guessing that Anderson sits somewhere around 95 kilograms. And I'm going to do it in kilograms, if you don't mind, just because the conversions happen easier. it's easier for me to do. You can convert completely at home, but 95, what is that? That's about just over 180 pounds, nearly 190 pounds. He's a big boy. Now, Anderson, for those of you that have just started watching, he's a very butch male. He is all head and shoulders and no neck, and he's got very odd eyes. They're quite a pale blue color for a leopard. They're very pale blue, actually, and they're quite, I don't know, they're eerie somehow. But I haven't had a chance to really get to know Anderson. Tingana, we think, is not that much smaller than the Anderson male. He's probably only a couple of kilograms lighter, and they haven't come into really serious conflict that we know of. They growl at each other on the boundaries of their territories, but they don't necessarily come into conflict with each other. I've guessed at the next three, and I don't know, and I also forgot how long their names are, so I ran out of space. Mvula, I'm putting at about 80. He's quite a lot shorter than Tingana, and he's not quite as stocky, particularly towards his back end. He's got a very powerful head and shoulders, but he's quite thin around the back end, particularly now, of course, because he's got older. So whilst he's still in good shape, he has lost, as it's inevitable with age, he's lost a certain degree of muscle mass. And I haven't seen Mvula in months now. He's spending a lot of time up north. So I've guessed at Mvula and Shimbambalana being at the same age, the same size, just in terms of the areas that they move about in. So that's my guess, is that they're around roughly 80 kilograms. So a good 15 kilograms lighter than the Anderson male, but not that much lighter than Tingana. And then Quarantine, he's big. He's only 4 years old, and I'm guessing that he's probably roughly around between 65 to 70 kilograms would be my guess. So that's our male leopards that we see regularly. Anderson and Tingana are the main dominant males that we see. Mvula's dominant in the north, and Shimbambalana in the east, and Quarantine, well, as you saw, who knows. Now I'm struggling with the ladies. Inkanyeni, the problem is I've never seen some of these leopards. Inkanyeni, I'm going to put it around the same size that Shaluva was. Now, I have seen Shaluva, I haven't seen Inkanyeni, but Shaluva was much bigger than Karula. So I would put her at around 50 or so odd kilograms. So roughly half Anderson, give or take. Now, here's where it gets more complicated, because Karula, Shadow, and Tundi are all very similar in size, and that's why I was asking maybe for your help, your impression of having seen them next to the vehicles, which ones you think are bigger or slightly smaller. I'm going to say that Karula is, and by the way, I'm doing the size comparison just out of interest, because it doesn't mean anything really in terms, as we've seen, in terms of their territorial standpoint or their success rate at all. It's just a pure size thing. Now, I think Karula probably sits at around 40 odd kilograms, maybe just a little bit more depending on how much she's eaten. As you know, they can bulge outwards, and that's like an extra 5 kilograms of food. Then I'm going to guess and put Tundi at the same weight, give or take, and I think Shadow is slightly smaller. It's really hard to tell unless you get them next to each other, which of course we don't. So I'm going to guess at Tundi being around 40 kgs, and I'm going to put Shadow as just under, but I mean really it's splitting hairs here. Probably about 38. So these leopards are small. Female leopards are really, really small creatures. They weigh less than I do, just in terms of weight. In terms of power, well, that's an entirely different story. That's a completely different thing. They are such incredibly strong animals that it's hard to tell. So that's a rough size comparison of the females we regularly see. I'm not including leopards like Tundi's daughter, who I've only seen once, but I suspect is bigger than her mom. And I'm not, because I thought she was in Inkanyeni. And I'm not including, for example, Tsakani. Now, Salaheshe is another leopard that we occasionally see, and I forgot about. Salaheshe probably sits on the biggest end of the spectrum. She's probably around 55 odd kilograms, so she's actually bigger than Inkanyeni, so I've made a mistake. Good point. So she's probably about 55 odd kilograms. She's a very big female leopard. Now, to briefly go back to my appalling drawings from earlier, we had a really interesting question from Simon, which is, why do we draw leopard territories or territories in general as circles? That's a very, very good question. And it's not because the leopards have territories that are circles. It's just because animals don't really recognize corners and 90-degree angles, so it's better than a square. But realistically, what it would probably look like, I mean, if I were to very quickly and very roughly redraw Torchwood, Coral, Cheetah Plains, Chitwa, so on. Okay, that's the very rough drawing. If I were to try and redraw those territories, this is a complete guess. We'd probably know the lions slightly better, or maybe Karulas would be an easier one to draw, but it would probably go something, you know, with Shimbambalana, for example, he'd probably go like this. Okay, so that looks slightly messier and very confusing, and of course, we're drawing outlines, but in fact a territorial boundary is a fluid thing. When one leopard is in the northern parts of his territory, he hasn't been down here marking for a while, so the dominant leopard south of here might pop in and pay a little bit of a visit to that area. So we draw circles because it's a rough estimate, but you can't think of it as a circle, and you can't think of it as defined, a piece of a jigsaw puzzle that fits together, because it's not at all. It's a very, very fluid thing. It's a very confusing thing for us. However, drawing a straight-ish line from what we've observed is not that far off. So, for example, the boundary of Shadow and Karula, if I draw Djuma here, and Arathusa is here, let's just call it that for now. Again, not even straight, they're not really straight. The boundary that Karula and Shadow follow, regularly scent marking, goes kind of almost in a straight line like this. So they do, and they will use roads, and they will use other boundaries, things like rivers, as a really convenient territorial marker as a boundary. So you can get straight lines in territories. Circles are just easier for us to draw. While I attempt to secure this drawing board and perhaps possibly put it inside because it looks as though it's going to rain, let's head back onto the vehicle with Evia, see what he's up to.
So we have just arrived at Chitwa Dam. It's the first time for me, and there's a lovely, lovely crocodile in shot there, moving through that green stuff. I think that green stuff is called duckweed, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It looks like it though. Yeah, some nice hippo, beautiful view. The wind's very strong here, blowing in these clouds, looking good for some rain, so hopefully we'll get some nice rain tonight. Yeah, there's some waterbuck around us as well, around the dam, right in front of us here. Nice little herd of waterbuck. You'll see there's a fence in the background that is around the camp of Chitwa. Where's that crocodile disappeared to? That Egyptian goose? Oh, that croc's around the bend already. It's just disappearing behind that wall. There we go, going into the larger piece of the water. This is a beautiful dam. It's nice to see some hippo. These waterbuck look like they want to come back down to the water. I think they spotted the croc when it moved the first time, and now they can't see it anymore. So they might want to go back into for a drink, having a good look at that area where it saw the croc at first, making sure that it's not around. Then they might go back. I think where this croc was at first, Man, this is so awesome. So this is your first crocodile on the show. Well, I'm glad I could have shared it with you. It's brilliant. We'll try and see if we can get another view at it. Just wait for it to move around that little embankment. But yeah, this water body that we're looking at now, oh, look at that. Hippo showing off its big teeth. And then just disappears into the water. There's another one. I've counted a fair amount of hippo in this area already. 14 strong. It's a nice number. It's good. Luckily it's not overpopulated. There's a hippo coming out. Just behind this log closer to us. This dead lead, oh, it's just gone back into the water. Come on, show yourself. I think let's sneak forward a bit, try and see if we can see that crocodile again. Sorry, Waterbuck, don't be silly. Crazy how nervous they can be. There's some more of the hippo sticking their bodies out the water. A bit further down. I think every little thing spooks them and they fight amongst each other. It just never stops. Folks, we're going to admire this view at the dam a bit longer, but in the time being, let's head over to Taylor and see what those beautiful spotted cats are up to.
These beautiful spotted cats, as you can see in Inkanyeni's tail dangling down, are resting. They're not particularly doing too much, unfortunately. Oh, don't you fall off. Isn't that the most hysterical view as well? They just look like they're copying each other the way that they're sitting on this reservoir wall. And we'll hang around for a little bit longer, but there are some massive clouds coming in from the distance. And I don't know how much longer we're going to have to stay here before we get completely sort of poured onto. And we don't want that to happen. So we might have to move away. And also they're on the edge of a very, very dense thicket. And if they go into that, if they continue going further west from here, I don't know if we're going to be able to follow them. There's lots of this green monkey thorn, which is unfortunately a bit of a nasty thing to drive over, as it is notorious for pulling cables out of underneath the vehicles. But we'll see. I'm hoping that we get to see them mate. I just want to see it once. And, well, the last time they did, they jumped into the reservoir, so let's hope that they don't do it again. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the name. Tennis. Now, tennis in Canada, you're wondering what is a dewlap. Now, unfortunately, Quarantine doesn't quite have one. But Mvula, the Anderson male, and of course Tingana have got these beautiful big flaps of skin that are underneath, so between their neck and their chin, I suppose you could call it. And now on a leopard, it doesn't quite serve the same function as it does on, for instance, an antelope like an earland, which get these big dewlaps, because not all leopards get dewlaps. It just depends on how big they get. And like I said, on a cat, I don't think it has too much of a function, but on an earland, which is an antelope, it can actually help cool them down with all the veins that they have in their neck. And some people, I've heard lots of different rumors, some people say they're also storing quite a bit of fat in of course, that big dewlap. So it's just sort of like an excess piece of skin. But remember, all these things that we find out about these animals, most of them are just theories. Nobody can know for certain because we can't really speak to animals, unfortunately. But only the really big leopards get dewlaps. You will never see it on a female leopard. They are very relaxed and very comfortable. The only thing moving quite literally is Inkanyeni's tail in the wind. Now, Liz, you were wondering if anybody knew if the Anderson male and Mvula are related, because you said that they've got similar features. Now, sadly, I'm almost the wrong person to ask, just because I haven't quite learned the in-depth leopard history that goes on in this area, and it can take quite some time because, well, the leopards are constantly changing, moving into new areas. Maybe they are. I think Jamie would be a good one to ask. I also don't think Evia would know, because we're both Evia and I are very familiar with the leopards down south, and we could tell you almost anything you wanted to know about those ones. But both being new to the northern Sabi Sands, it will take us some time. So I think Jamie's probably going to be the best one to ask. So maybe we'll have to have a chat with her or James, and they'll be able to confirm or maybe give a little bit more insight onto that question tomorrow morning. So I shall pass it on to them, and then I'm sure one of them will bring it up in the sunrise drive tomorrow. But I'm wondering, Liz, what features you're talking about? Are you talking about maybe their eyes, the fact that they've sort of got that very sort of dark black almost ring around their eyes, and very light eyes too? I'm not 100% sure, but one thing I know for certain is that the Anderson male is much, much larger than Mvula. So if they are related somewhere along the line, sadly, unfortunately for Mvula, he didn't get the big strong genetics like the Anderson male did. I think we're going to say goodbye to these leopards, though. They're fast asleep, and we need to try and get away from the rain. The dark clouds are moving in quite quickly. But Jamie is, sadly, Jamie's going to have to say goodbye to her. So let's go over to her and see her for one last time.
I am still very jealous of that sighting that Taylor's had, and I'm very glad that she got to enjoy them resting on that reservoir, which I'm sure is nice and warm, and keeping them thoroughly comfortable as the afternoon starts to cool down. Excuse me. Now, as Taylor said, it is starting to darken. The clouds are blowing in. I can hear some rumbles of thunder off in the distance, which means it's time for us to pack up the tent, get it all closed up and safe from the impending rains. So Rian and myself are going to say goodbye. So thank you, Rian, doing a marvelous job in the tent for your very first time in the tent. And to all of you for joining us, I hope you had fun, and we'll catch you again on the Sunrise Safari. Bye-bye, everybody. Off to Evia with you.
Alright. Where are we going? This is the way we're going. Exploring Chitwa. But all we want to do is get back onto Djuma and see if maybe we can bump into the royal family before the end of drive. So let's go play around. We'll go around Twin Dams, start there, and then work our way into the area. There's some Guinea fowl. What are they feeding on? It looks like there's some dung. Yeah, they're picking through the dung looking for any insects or something that are moving around there that they can feed on. Nice. Helmeted Guinea fowl. Must be finding some good food, because it's spending a fair amount of time there in the same place. Now digging a new hole. Looks like the other one's keeping an eye out for any predators while the one's feeding. No. Actually beautiful birds. I wonder, is that the male? Do you see that flap on his neck? I didn't see it on the other one. Maybe it's in breeding time that he gets that flap to impress the lady. There's a bit of a flap, but not as big as the other ones. Interesting. Well, I think let's keep moving. Sorry, Guinea fowl. So, Amanda, you would like to know if there are any black panthers in South Africa or in the Sabi Sand? Definitely not panthers. Panthers you find in South America. But a melanistic leopard, I wouldn't say is impossible. It could happen. But I've never seen one myself, so I doubt it. The only one I've seen almost an orange, strawberry blonde type leopard. I saw a picture of it. It was in Madikwe Game Reserve. That was maybe 3-4 years ago that picture came out. Quite an interesting color to the cat. But I can't recall any melanistic leopard being recorded. Yeah, but you'd never know. Some raindrops. The story of the leopard at the entrance of the lodge. There are a couple. It happens quite often. There was this young male leopard that used to hang around the Star Village and often come down to Earth Lodge. And I remember so one night, I think I'd already closed down. I was already back at camp. The others were still on their way, and we were waiting for the people to come. And just before we wanted to walk up the walkway to go and meet the guests returning from their safari, just hold on, I'm going to tell you, I'll carry on with the story now. I just want to move through this area quickly. We've got a vehicle approaching us. We're just going to bypass them and then I'll carry on with the story. So yeah, Earth Lodge, there's a big walkway that basically takes you down into the lodge, and this young male leopard was walking down into the lodge, and at first we just saw the shadow came in like into the lodge, and then we just had this head peep around the door. Okay. I think this might sort out those little gremlins. We're back on higher ground. So yeah, then Nicole started calling all the other people that there is a leopard around. And one of my favorite stories about that particular leopard, and with Nicole involved, the one day we were out on game drive and we got a call from Nicole saying that there's a leopard in camp, or in the Star Village, around the Star Village. Now, when we do safaris, a lot of the talking we do is in Shangaan, or the local language, so that we call the animals by those names and not by the English names. So Nicole was very angry at me for saying that, but I called her on the radio and said, just please remember next time to call it Ingwe and not leopard. And I said I was going to give her a nice surprise when we got back. So we had a drink that if you caused a bit of trouble or got stuck, you were supposed to drink that. So no one really wants to drink it, and she wasn't too happy with me. And when I got back and I checked my phone, I got some not nasty SMSs, but very stern warnings that next time find your leopard on your own. don't rely on me telling you where it is. So yeah, that's some of the stories we had with those leopards around camp. It's a lot of fun living and working out in the bush. There's a lot of those things that happen behind the scenes that you're not always aware of. And it's nice to share them. Lucy, thank you thank you very much for the lovely birthday wishes all the way from Tennessee. I'm definitely not gonna do a dance. Yeah, me and dancing don't work too well, so I'm gonna look like one big fool if I start dancing around now. So, but yeah, once again, thank you for the birthday wishes. I think let's rather keep moving and look for those for the royal family, see if we bump into them. See, Darby's got a lot of moves at the back here, so maybe he wants to do the rain dance. No, I think let's keep on the animal side of things for this last picture. I'm trying to think of any other funny stories we had. Oh yeah, the one night, remember that male elephant with the hole in his ear, some people call Daryl. So one night I get woken up, someone's breaking into the room, and waking up, looking through the window, there was a bottle of Oros. There's a Wahlberg's eagle, a pale morph Wahlberg's eagle flying up. Yeah, so there was a bottle of Oros or orange juice next to the window, and the windows were open, but it had this gauze that covered what protected us against mosquitoes, and we really thought someone was trying to get into the house, but it ended up just being old Daryl wanting a sip of the orange juice. That Wahlberg's eagles disappeared now. I think let's keep moving. The ladies in FC are telling me of all the birthday wishes coming through. Thank you, it's been great spending my birthday with all of you out in the bush. It's really been a privilege. What is gonna still pop up for us this afternoon? Come on, animals. I think this wind has pushed a lot of the animals into thicker bush. Sure. Mary, that's a very good question. What would I be doing right now if I wasn't at Wild Earth taking you on a live safari? I don't know. I haven't really thought what else I could be doing. Probably have a party somewhere. But I prefer this though. There's seriously, party sounds good, but being out in the bush and seeing all the different things that we've seen for today, I'd rather take this any day, any time. So no, I'm fairly happy with how my birthday's turned out. Yeah, I don't think I could wish for anything else. There's something on the road. I can't see properly what it is. Let's just have a quick look. Oh, no, it's just a branch. Got excited again. I thought it might be a leopard or something that was lying in the road. So it's this branch just in front of us. And from where I saw it the first time, the color of the soil behind it made it look like it might have been an animal, but it clearly isn't. I think maybe my next birthday I must take a trip maybe up to Kenya or something, go see the part of the migration or something like that. That'll be quite interesting and nice. Something to save up for. More game. In the meantime, let's go see what Taylor is up to.
Speaking of game, we actually have a couple of zebra just in front of us on the road. I'm not going to go too close to them just because they're so relaxed with us. Only these little ones have really worked out that we are here. And you know what zebra can be like. If they work out that you have spotted them, they go racing off into the distance. We'll just sit quietly from a distance and watch them. But don't they look so happy and so fat? And they don't seem to mind the wind this afternoon. You can see it's absolutely gusting at the moment, and I can see the big rain clouds. Well, they're pushing in from the south. They're actually coming in quite quickly. And I actually guessed that we were only going to have rain in the early hours of the morning. But I was wrong, because apparently it is now raining at the DRC. We're going to try and avoid the DRC for as long as we can. Isn't that right, Brian? We're going to do circles on the outside so we don't get too wet this afternoon. This is really fantastic. And this is what I absolutely love about, of course, doing what we do and having these big cameras on the vehicles, is because you can actually just sit from a distance and observe without bothering the animals too much. Because if we were to go any closer, they would run away from us. But not even the stallion has spotted us, which was the one you were just looking at. He hasn't even turned around to have a look just yet. Isn't that just a lovely shot with the big trees in the background, the lovely long green grass? And of course that white and those black stripes really do stand out nicely when they're out in the open. And that always amazes me, how easily they are to spot out on the open grasslands, but as soon as they duck into a thicket, they just completely disappear and blend in with the vegetation behind them. Wonderful. Where are we going to go to next, Brian? This is the dilemma that we're having, is what roads to check. Maybe we should go towards Shibamu and see if the community nest spiders are out and about. I think that that's a good idea. So we'll have one last look at the zebra, and then we're going to continue down Gowrie Main and head towards Shibamu Road. Now, George, you were actually saying that you're very happy to see the zebras. You haven't seen them in a while. And I'm so glad that they were standing still, too. Ooh, the thunder is now rumbling. We also saw a couple of flashes of lightning into the distance. So let's keep a move on, because Shibamu Road's actually a little bit of a way away. And I think we'll need to just change gears again. I'm going to sneak past the zebras. Let me turn my lights off. Hi guys, and watch, you'll see as soon as we try and sneak past them as quietly and as well slowly as we can. Maybe not, maybe they're going to stand still. Let's see. Hi zebra. No ways. No ways. Well, that wasn't a very good getaway, but that suits me perfectly. Doesn't it suit you just fine, Brian? This is the most relaxed zebra I've ever come across. Hello, big boy. He hasn't even lifted his head at once to look at us. I suppose he's so preoccupied with his head stuck down in the grass and enjoying his dinner. He doesn't look very happy, though, with his ears against his head. You look very much like a mare with your ears like that. And that is the only sort of face that a mare, whether it be a horse or a zebra, really knows how to pull, is a grumpy looking face. But I must say, I prefer the grumpy looking faces on a zebra than I do the horses. Dan's Gaming, you say, dear carnivores, you are not allowed to eat zebra because they are too pretty. I shall do my best attempt at passing that message on to, for you, and hopefully they leave these trusty zebra behind. But luckily for the zebra, though, the Nkahumas seem to prefer buffalo, and they don't seem to catch too many zebra all the time. And it was the same thing down in the south, and actually my experience with lions in total. I've never really seen them catching zebra, but remember when James went to the Mara, he actually saw lions feeding on a zebra, if I'm not mistaken. I suppose every animal is different, and they make use of whatever they've got around them. We're going to continue on driving, though, and start edging a little bit closer ahead. I don't know if we're really going to have enough time to get to Shibamu Road. I think it's actually just too far away, and we don't have much time left. Now, Dawn, you were wondering what is the real difference between a zebra and a horse. So the genetics are slightly different, of course. And one of the other things is that zebras don't really have as strong of a back like a horse does. Horses are real weight carriers as well as donkeys, but zebras just didn't seem to get that good gene. The exact difference between the two, though, well, the stripes. You don't often get to see striped horses. You see dappled horses, though, with all the different colors and well, what do you call it? Now I've forgotten all the different colorations, and you get, well, different spots and things. Piebald, skewbald, and you get all those amazing sort of colorations, but you don't get that on zebras, and then of course you don't get horses with stripes either, but I'm sure there's a couple of other differences too. And well, zebras don't get very big. They really get to the size of a big pony, and that's about it. So that's about 14.3 hands is about the maximum size, maybe pushing into about 15 hands, making the zebra more like a honey, a horse-cross pony. Those sort of awkward heights of horses, the horses that make the good polo ponies. Rightio. Oh, it's dark. Let's put some lights on. Now, we were hoping to actually get the spotlight out, a chameleon, but the temperature has dropped quite a bit now, so I'm not really feeling too hopeful that we are going to stumble across a chameleon. but we're going to keep searching and keep trying. And apparently Evia has got a couple of tortoises to show you.
Yeah, two beautiful leopard tortoises. I wonder, that front one must be fairly old already. It's quite large for a leopard tortoise. It's chomping away on a piece of grass. Look at that. How nice was that? Just a quick snack for our long route. I wonder where they're going. I have got a feeling these two might be on honeymoon, because that second one's become like a tail for this first one. So I would say female on, the female's the bigger one, and then the smaller one the male. And I'm willing to put money on it that yeah, he's definitely chasing some tail there. Shame, it's worse than a lion. Male lions do the exact same thing almost. As soon as the female moves, the male follows very quickly. How special is that? Oh. It's amazing how quickly they move and how slow it looks. In the time that we've been with them, they've maybe covered 10-15 meters already from where we first saw them. This female's definitely hungry. That is really cool. One thing I really appreciate of Safari Live is that we take a lot of time focusing on these smaller things. A lot of the times when you're driving guests, they all come with the idea of, we want to see the big five and only the big five, and you drive past a lot of these things, and with this we get to spend time with these things and actually learn about them, so it's pretty cool. And even the bushwalks, looking at all the different insects and stuff that we find around here and the different plants, yeah, that's really special. So it's been a good learning curve for me over the last couple of weeks that I've been here. That would be most, or the bulk of the weight would be the shell. Look how beautiful this female shell is compared to the male. The male's looks quite dull, and then the female's got nice bright colors, looking very healthy, good. Dinosaurs. Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. Whoa. Tongue's twisting already. Sorry. It's been really a pleasure to be out in the bush with you guys today. It's been a great day of beautiful cats from early this morning to late this afternoon, and I really enjoyed my birthday and sharing that with you. I hope you have a lovely evening, and we'll see you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. I'm going to head back over to Taylor.
Now we are searching very, very well, we're trying to do our best at trying to find a chameleon. So Brian and I are not looking for anything else. We're just scanning all the trees as we are passing and all the long bits of grass. Sadly, nothing yet. And I'm hoping that this new year is going to bring me a chameleon. That's what I would really like. Or some pangolin. Pangolin would be fine too. But no chameleons just yet. I thought that they would be easier than finding a pangolin. But up here in the north, they seem to be evading me. But we'll get one eventually and we will celebrate. Hopefully, when we eventually find one. It's very dark this evening. Last night was incredible. It didn't even feel like the sun had gone down properly. It was so light still. And well, this evening, it's very, you see, this is what blows my mind, is that I cannot find a chameleon, but I can find, I think it's a worm. Can you see that shiny thing there, Brian? On that branch? Yeah, go down, the small little shrub that's illuminated. There we go. Can you see it? What is that? I can spot. That is a caterpillar. It's a beautiful caterpillar. I can, of course, spot caterpillars and moths and birds at night, but no chameleons for me, sadly. And it is now time for me to send you all on your way, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to tune in tomorrow for the sunrise safari, and we shall see you then. It's been a wonderful day filled with cats. From myself and Brian, and of course the thumb, have a lovely day.